Hi, this is Wil Haygood, author of the audiobook, The Butler, A Witness to History. I was working as a national reporter for the Washington Post newspaper, and I was on the campaign trail with then Senator Barack Obama. I was with a lot of other journalists in North Carolina watching the senator make a speech one evening. After this speech, I walked outside of the auditorium and noticed some young ladies who were crying. I asked them if there was anything I could do. They happened to have been white young ladies, and they were students. And they supported Senator Obama in his race for the White House. And they were crying, they said, because their fathers stopped speaking to them because they supported this candidate who was black. I thought that was a seminal moment in a way that these girls would stand up to their fathers. And something told me that many other girls in many other cities were doing the same thing, were willing to judge this candidate by his character and not by the color of his skin. That inspired me to start wanting to find somebody who worked in the White House during the eras of segregation, because I left North Carolina firmly believing that Senator Obama could win his race for the White House after that encounter with those young ladies. So I made a lot of phone calls across this country looking for somebody who worked at the White House, and I wanted to go back as far as the 60s or 50s and find somebody who, when they were in the White House, would have thought it inconceivable that a black man in their lifetime would occupy the Oval Office. It was just an idea, and I chased after ideas, I chased after stories, and I made all these phone calls, and I finally tracked down an elderly retired man who lived at the end of a humble street here in Washington, D.C., by the name of Eugene Allen. And he had never been written about. He had never told his story. And when I knocked on his door, he and his wife invited me in. They had been married 65 years, and he had this amazing story to tell about history, about his life, and about their affection for Obama, who they were supportive of and they were looking to voting for. And so he was like this unsung figure who no one knew about. He had never been written about, and yet there he was with all of these treasures, photographs of him and Eisenhower, him and Harry Truman, him and Jack Kennedy, him and Duke Ellington, him and Frank Sinatra, him and Sammy Davis Jr., all these wonderful, beautiful letters from the presidents and the first ladies to him, and these gorgeous scrapbooks, thousands of photographs, hundreds of beautiful artifacts that he had been given as gifts. So to find such a man in 2008, it was very special. One of my favorite moments in the Butler audiobook is the section where I go over to visit the butler. His wife, Helene, has died. She died the day before the 2008 election, and she was buried on the day that my story was published on the front page of the Washington Post. And he was all alone in this house. And there were many, many, many letters from readers all over the country, all over the world, actually, because the story was reprinted in many foreign newspapers. I would receive these letters that were written to me, but they were care of Mr. Allen, the White House butler. These letters came from Australia and Japan and Hawaii and Oregon, all over. And at the end of a week, I would put the letters in my shoulder bag, and I would hop on the subway train and take the letters to him. And we would sit around his living room, just me and him, and he would sit in a chair where his wife had sat many nights during their long marriage, and he would read the letters, and he would get teary-eyed. He would smile. It would make him so happy that school children in Los Angeles had written him letters saying, "Dear Mr. Allen, I hope that you are okay. We feel very sorry that your wife has gone to heaven, but you are a great and wonderful man, and we enjoyed reading this story about you." It was just moments like that I think will really resonate in this audiobook. And there are moments like that touch my heart even to this day. It is really somewhat surreal to know that a story that I wrote has been the basis for this major motion picture. That is an amazing accumulation of talent in cinema. So I feel very fortunate, and I feel very grateful that the filmmakers allowed me to be on the movie set while we were filming in the summer of 2012 down in New Orleans and throughout much of the state. It was a special experience to walk onto a movie set and see Jane Fonda, and to see Alan Rickman, to see Cuba Gooding, Lenny Kravitz, Oprah Winfrey, Forrest Whitaker, Robin Williams. These are very accomplished thespians, actors and actresses, and they wanted to carve the time into their schedule to make this movie. And it's a very special time, I think, in the history of this country. This summer, the summer of 2013, is the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech given in 1963 in Washington, D.C. And this movie really is the first movie that explores and explains the scope and sweep of the modern civil rights movement in this country. So I think the timing is phenomenal. It really looks at how we got from there to an African-American first family in the White House. And sometimes we don't give our country enough credit for the leaps of faith that we have made. Yes, there's still work to be done, but we have scaled mountains. We really have as human beings in this country. And there is no denying that, even in the face of moments that yank our hearts into pain. We have much to be proud of. And I think what happened in 2008 on election night, when you had a humble White House butler who no one knew about, sitting in his living room watching the returns, a man who, when he left the White House in the 1950s and went back to his native Virginia, he had to use a segregated restroom. A man who lived at the most powerful address in the world was not treated as a first-class citizen. So for that man to live through those decades and to be sitting in his house on November 4th, 2008, and to watch the returns with tears in his eyes, and then to receive an invitation to the January 20th inauguration, that's a pretty remarkable arc for anyone's life. That it is the life of a butler, somebody who serves, is really special. It was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. who said, if you're going to be a shoe-shine man, be the best shoe-shine man you can be. If you're going to wash dishes, be the best dishwasher you can be. Well, here's a butler. He was the best butler that he could be. And now there's a movie about his life. I'm very proud and honored to have met him, and I think it's a story that will resonate beautifully in this audiobook.